The woman reluctantly unbuckled her belt and pulled off her pants in the deep pit. The man beside her glanced over and stripped off his own pants too. He grabbed both pairs and walked over to a nearby muddy puddle. After soaking the pants thoroughly, he pulled out the belts and found two thick branches, using the belts to tie them together tightly. Then he knotted the two pairs of pants end to end, creating a makeshift hook. With everything ready, the man stared up at the 15-foot deep pit, eager to give it a shot. He told the woman to stay back, then hurled the branch hook upward with all his strength. But after a dozen attempts, he nearly got smacked in the head by the falling branches. Yet the more he failed, the more determined he became. After countless tries, the branches finally caught on the edge of the pit. Excited, he yanked hard twice to test if it would hold his weight. Then he planted his left foot against the pit wall, gripped the pants tightly with both hands, and began inching his way up. But the smooth walls offered no foothold, all his weight was supported by those two slender branches. Just when escape seemed within reach, he scrambled faster, using both hands and feet. Space.
Ivan!
A sharp, piercing pain sent him crashing to the ground, letting out an agonizing scream. The woman rushed over and saw his kneecap was completely exposed. She quickly tore a strip of fabric from the pants, rinsed it in the water, and pressed it directly onto the wound. This only made the man howl like a pig being slaughtered. To make matters worse, it suddenly started pouring rain. Both knew that if the wound got infected, it would fester within 3 days, and the rain-soaked pit walls could collapse at any moment. Just as the woman was panicking, the man suddenly burst into wild laughter, because he saw hope for escape again. Within minutes, the water had reached their ankles. Watching the rainwater rushing in, the woman was terrified since she couldn't swim. The man calmed her down and led her to higher ground on a dirt mound, having her grab onto tree roots that the water had exposed. His plan was to wait for the water level to rise to ground level, then use the buoyancy to escape. That's when the woman slipped and fell straight into the water. Seeing this, the man dove in after her, pulled her up, and held her tight, afraid she might fall again. The two stood in the water, waiting and waiting, but the rain grew lighter until the sky cleared completely. The water in the pit began seeping underground, and everything was back to square one. Though the man was losing hope, he still tried to stay calm and comfort her, insisting another heavy rain would come. But by the next day, even the mud at the bottom had dried up, and the sky remained cloudless. Worse yet, the man's infected wound had turned septic, giving him a high fever that left him increasingly delirious. Suddenly, he shoved the woman away and frantically threw himself at the water puddle, scooping up dirty water and gulping it down. Then he stuck his hand in the water, grabbing whatever he could find and stuffing it in his mouth. The woman was horrified by this sight. She backed away while softly calling his name. When he turned around, she was shocked. He was clutching half a frog in his hand, still chewing. In his delirium, he offered the frog to the woman, insisting she take a bite. The woman's stomach churned, and she threw up on the spot. She feared the man was dying, but he seemed to be living in his own world, completely unresponsive to her calls. Just then, raindrops began falling. The cool water hitting the man's face snapped him back to reality, and he vomited up all the frog. Seeing the rain intensify, the two embraced and wept. They found a spot to stand steady and waited for the water to rise. Soon the rainwater reached their chests. The two clung to each other, gripping a thin tree root to barely maintain their balance. But the flimsy root couldn't support both of them. Space. Fortunately, the man could swim and quickly lifted the woman above water. But he was already weak, and dragging a woman who couldn't swim took every ounce of his strength. Just then, the rain lightened again and the water stopped rising. If they didn't get out soon, they definitely wouldn't survive until the next downpour. With no other choice, the man crouched down like a ladder, letting the woman step on his shoulders to climb out first. Standing on his shoulders and grabbing the exposed tree roots, she finally reached ground level. But in her final push, she used too much force and kicked the exhausted man back into the pit. When she crawled onto solid ground and looked back, only a few bubbles floated on the water's surface. The man was nowhere to be seen. She lay at the pit's edge, shouting until her voice was hoarse, but never got a response. Only when the water surface became completely still did she turn away in tears, because she knew that staying alive was the only way to honor his desperate sacrifice.